Hello everybody, Matthew Armstrong here on day 56 of our 90-day transformation program from mediocrity to mastery. And if you really want to master yourself, master your life, and get out of that place of mediocrity, then you need to understand the nature of emotions and master the emotions that can plague us. Emotions are a very difficult thing, very difficult thing that we have to work with in life. A lot of people have different views on what emotions are, and because emotions are wonderful, they make us who we are and stuff like that. And yes, it does make a very colourful world, the emotions that people have. But if we don't master our emotions, then we can be up and down and swinging around in circles and going through life like bipolar. One minute we're really high and everything's great, next minute we're really low and everything's crap. And it only takes one thing to happen that we react to, that suddenly we could be feeling good, and then something happens and we react to it, then we're suddenly feeling bad. So it puts us really at the effect of the world if we don't master our emotions. It puts us at the effect of other people, of circumstances, of events, if we don't really truly master our emotions. We're talking about health and vitality in this section, this chapter, and as you may know, a lot of my work has been in that arena, the health arena, the health movement, and a lot of it's been to do with a lot of the stuff I put out publicly anyway, has been to do with nutrition and things like that. And that's definitely a big part of the foundation of our health is to have our nutrition, to have our exercise and our rest and all that sort of stuff, right? Our hydration, our breathing, all this is like foundational. But what we really want to get into to really master our lives is the emotions, because we can have that foundation set, but if we don't actually know what's making us tick, we don't know why sometimes we're just not feeling good, why certain things happen, why whatever, it just means that we're not truly mastering our lives, right? So for example, I worked with a lady once who was clinically obese, I would say. She was very overweight, and I only worked for one time, just one-on-one coaching session personally with her. But she came to me and she said that she had been overweight, seriously overweight for 30 years, and nothing worked. She tried every diet out there, every plan there was, and nothing worked. And she sat back in her chair, like basically saying, "And there's nothing you can do for me either. I don't even know why I'm here," kind of attitude, So I think I might have talked her into coming in after I'd met her or heard her story or something. And so I worked with her thinking, okay, she's tried every diet under the sun and this, that and the other. It has to be a deep-seated emotional issue, an unconscious issue. And that's what we found. We uncovered through me asking her a series of questions, a deep emotional trauma from childhood. And we did some energy work and some emotional work on that, and it dissipated. It completely dissipated. And after that, she was like, "Oh, I feel completely different now." And so she went away, and I saw her 5-6 months later, and she'd lost all the weight. She lost like 5 stone or something, whatever that is, about 80 pounds or something like that. And she'd like literally lost in 5 months. And she said, "Oh yeah, I'm having this new shake now, and it's working really well, and whatever else, But if she hadn't taken care of that emotional issue, that shake she was drinking wouldn't have worked. Just wouldn't have. She would have sabotaged in some way or whatever, right? But because we took care of the emotional issue, which was the deepest reasons why we have illness and injuries, is it stems from the emotions, right? Anytime that you have an accident or get an injury, it's because we're not present, we're not certain, we are in a place where our mind is somewhere else, and we're thinking about something. Electricity's gone off again. It's the aircon unit does it. We're thinking about something that's going on, whether it be positive or negative. It could be either positive or negative. It doesn't matter. Here's what a lot of people in the law of attraction sort of, I guess, movement would say, if you just think positive and then you just focus on good things, then nothing bad can come to you, sort of thing, right? Because you're just attracting that into you. Right, let me go and turn this on again 1 second. Can we turn the electric on, please? Yeah. So where was I? Yeah. So anytime we have an injury, it's or are involved in an accident, it's because we're not present and we're not certain. It's because our mind is somewhere else, and it doesn't matter whether we're thinking positive thoughts or negative thoughts. Both can just cause injury as much as there we have light, right? As much as anything else. So it's crucial to be present, right? Whenever I've had the most injuries I've had have been when not when my diet has been bad, or not when I haven't warmed up for the exercise or whatever. It's when my emotional state hasn't been right. It's been whenever I've been thinking certain things or whatever. That's when I've had injuries or accidents or things like that. So to understand the nature of emotions, to master the emotions, is crucially important for our health and our vitality and our wellness. Okay, so let's continue with the reading from the book, The Values Factor by Dr. John Demartini. You can purchase your book at drdemartini.com. We're on page 342, The Nature of Emotions. As we just saw, wisdom and wellness flow from balance. Nature and our intuition are constantly showing us this balance, but our lopsided emotions reveal when we are out of balance. In my signature seminar program, The Breakthrough Experience, I regularly demonstrate how to dissolve imbalanced emotions in order to awaken ourselves to wholeness, wellness, and balance. The basis of my method is to demonstrate clearly that nothing is ever lost, only transformed. And nothing is ever good or bad, there's always balance of pleasure and pain, support and challenge, positive and negative. Understanding these universal truths opens the heart to create unconditional gratitude and love for everything that life brings us and everyone whom we encounter. This new paradigm is often difficult for my many students to grasp, so I offer a powerful demonstration of how it works during our Breakthrough Experience seminar. I invite students to raise their hands if they're in the process of experiencing the emotion that they identify as grief. I have students vote on whose grief is the greatest, and then I work in front of the group with that student. I have found that grief results from the imbalanced perception of a loss of some items, actions, traits, or behaviors without an equal gain. A loss of that which is previously assumed supported our highest values more than challenged them and brought us more pleasure and pain. In a recent seminar, the student voted as displayed, the most grief had undergone the death of his 6-year-old daughter. I began by asking him what specifically he was missing or had lost since the moment his daughter had died. Visibly overcome by sorrow, the man slowly began talking about his experience. I miss spending time with my daughter, he said, haltingly. I miss tickling and playing and giggling with her. What else? I asked. I miss watching her grow up. What else? I miss coming home to see her every night and finding out about her day. What else? As I do each time, I continue to ask the man what things he missed until he had listed them all. Usually there are about 10 items on the list, although sometimes more, sometimes less. The greatest number of items I have ever been given was 28. Now, what my students do not yet realize is that all the things they miss represent infatuations fueled by dopamine and oxytocin. They miss the aspects of the person or relationship that include induced pleasure, and so their grief results from their withdrawal from their two powerful brain chemicals. from these two powerful brain chemicals. They never miss the dirty diapers, the screaming, the fighting back. They only miss the elements of the personal relationship that provoke pleasure. So once my grieving student has identified all the things that he or she is missing now, I ask a different kind of question, as I did with the man who had lost his daughter. The moment you perceived your daughter to be gone, what emerged in your life to bring the exact same traits and behaviours and make the exact same contribution to your life? I asked. As with most people, this man's initial response was to deny that possibility. No one emerged to take her place, he said angrily. She was my daughter. She was unique. There's no one like her. Yes, but I didn't ask who emerged, who was identical to your daughter, I pointed out. I asked who or what is bringing into your life the same traits and behaviours that your daughter brought. The traits that you believe you have lost. So look again and see what those traits have emerged. As with most people, the man was at first reluctant to consider this new perspective, but finally he said, "My sister has a daughter, and I've been spending more time with her." "Exactly," I said. "Who else?" "I have a client who's been bringing her daughter into appointments with me," he said, "so I have had some time with her." "All right," I said. "Who else?" "I've been sort of spending time taking care of myself, babying myself," the man said. "In a way, I've been treating myself as a young child." "All right," I said. "Who else?" "Well, my mother and I have been talking about my childhood and what we used to do when I was my daughter's age," he said. "So in that way too, those traits have been present." By the time we had finished this portion of the grief-dissolving process, this man had seen that none of the specific traits or behaviours were actually lost. They were only transformed. And all of the traits and behaviours that he had been missing from the moment of his daughter's death had emerged since her death in other forms, whether just one person or distributed over several people. He was able to acknowledge that while these traits were not qualitatively equal to his daughter, who was unique as every human being is, they were quantitatively equal to the traits that she had brought into his life. This realization arises every time I go through this process, which as of the writing of this has been something like 1,200 times. The next step was to review the traits that this man had been infatuated with and was now missing, and to help him look at the downsides of those traits. As we have seen, there are always two sides to every trait, even though our fantasies and imbalanced perspective might have us believe otherwise. So I asked him, this man, when you tickled and played with your daughter and she giggled and laughed with you, what were the downsides of those moments? The man at first said there are none, but then upon deeper reflection, he finally said, well, spending time with my daughter was time consuming. I would come home tired, and sometimes I just wanted to go and sit in front of the TV and relax. But as long as I was playing with my daughter, I couldn't. She would usually want to play as long as I was willing to. So by playing with her, I missed TV, my relaxation time, or getting other things done. I also missed spending time with my wife. Sometimes there were things that happened to me from the day that I didn't get a chance to process. And then sometimes when we played, she'd get hurt and I had to deal with the injury. He went on and on, listing the downsides to all the positives he had just identified. In fact, he was demonstrating the universal truth of balance. There is no positive without a negative, no pleasure without a pain, no support without a challenge. Every trait has aspects that we label positive, as well as traits that we label negative. But we commonly blind ourselves to the negative aspects when we are grieving for someone whom we believe we have lost. In fact, every trait is neutral until we create a fantasy around it. Then we hold on to our fantasy, negate the downsides of the trait, and remain mired in our grief. So this step in my process asks the grieving person to find the downside of each trait that he or she is missing. Because all traits are neutral, we can always identify both benefits and drawbacks to each one. And because nothing is ever lost, because nature conserves, everything is continually transforming into new forms, we can always find whatever we falsely believe we have lost, if we only know how to look for it. The final step in my process, is to ask the grieving person to identify the benefits of the new ways that the traits or behaviours of the lost person have emerged. So I asked this man to identify those benefits. Well, he said, getting closer to my sister's daughter has also helped me get closer to my sister. And playing with my client's daughter has given me new insights into my client. He went on naming benefits, and so he proceeded through the stages of dissolving his grief, identifying the drawbacks of the old form and the benefits of the new. Finally, we had leveled the playing field, and the man could balance his perspective, let go of his fantasies, and realize his grief, and release his grief. As he did, he momentarily paused, became silent, and sensed his daughter's virtual presence. He inwardly felt gratitude and love for the 6 years she was with him, as well as for the new forms she had taken since her passing. Now, what is the role of the values factor in this process? If you're living according to your highest values, you'll find yourself acting and perceiving in a far more balanced way. Living according to your values makes it far easier for you to see a balance of support and challenge in every event, and to embrace everything that happens without judging it as good or bad, because you see ways in which any event can be made to pursue your inspired mission and further your highest values. Living according to your highest values makes you more resilient and more adaptable. Lopsided emotions, by contrast, represent the misperceptions that keep you from being resilient. Illness is then the feedback that nature uses to try to get you to become more aware of this balance, to adapt and evolve, and to live according to your highest values. So the values factor is your path to wellness because it enables you to achieve a balanced perspective in which you become both pleasure and pain, both support and challenge, both positive and negative. Because you're willing to do anything in support of your highest values, you're able to welcome anything that comes your way. That endeth our reading there. Incredibly powerful stuff, and can be very, very difficult to initially get your head around that because we're so programmed into other paradigms, right? And for me as well, I've read this material numerous times. I've contemplated it, and it does take a while to get your head around it. So if you find that hard to get your head around, then please just don't dismiss it straight away. Just contemplate it, go through it, keep going through it, because it's a way of thinking and a way of being, a way of living that is superior to what we've been taught generally. Far superior to what we've been taught, how we've been programmed from the culturally and from our parents and from schools and from everything around us, the religions. Is quite different, right? So, but it's powerful, and obviously it works, right? And if it works, then is that not a great thing? Cool. So, if you want to do that on a very deep level, then go to the Breakthrough Experience. I'm going to put a link below this video where there's one happening in London in a few weeks' time. Go to the Breakthrough Experience, and then you can experience, this sort of stuff yourself, right? And if you want to get on my subscriber list and receive regular updates, there's be a link below for that as well. Click on that link to get on my subscriber list and receive regular updates. And if you want to create a vehicle, if you want to have a vehicle to create financial freedom in your life, then there's a link below for that too. Click on that, put in your email address, and you'll receive more information on that as well. Pleasure to be speaking with you, and I shall look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow morning. See you then.